I didn't start nagging because I liked talking. I started because no one else did anything. Someone had to remember everything. My name is Emma. I am 34 years old. I work in an office. I used to think I was a calm person. I did not talk much. I listened more than I spoke. But somewhere along the way, my voice changed. Or maybe the house did. People say I talk too much. They say I repeat myself. They say I complain. I hear that word a lot. Nagging. When I hear it, I feel small. I feel tired inside. I tell myself to stay quiet. I tell myself it is not worth it. Still, every day, I remember things. I remember for everyone. I remember the house. I remember the child. I remember what no one else sees. And I never thought silence would teach us anything. But 1 week of silence changed everything. I was not always like this. I used to laugh more. I spoke softly. When we first got married, our home felt light. We were tired, but we were happy. We believed things would balance out on their own. Back then, we had a quiet promise. We never said it clearly, but it was there. We will do this together. If something was messy, one of us cleaned it. If someone forgot, the other remembered. It felt natural. It felt fair. I remember the kitchen in those days. We cooked together, sometimes badly, sometimes late. We left dishes in the sink and laughed about it. When our son called my name from the other room, my husband answered too. Not every time, but often enough. Then life started moving faster. Work got heavier, days got longer. We came home tired. Very tired. Little things changed first. Small things. The dishes stayed longer. The toys stayed on the floor. I noticed them. I picked them up. Now, my days sounded different. Did you eat? Did you pack his bag? Please put that back. My voice filled the house more than before, not because I wanted it to, but because no one else spoke first. When I talked, my husband nodded. Uh-huh. He heard me, but he didn't move, and every night, I stood in the kitchen alone, holding things that were never meant to be mine alone. Mornings started the same way. I woke up early. I went into the kitchen. The sink was full of dishes from breakfast. Plates, cups, spoons. I washed them before work. A wet towel lay on the floor near the bathroom door. I picked it up, again. My son's school bag sat next to the chair, still closed. I opened it. I packed it. I said nothing. David walked past me. He forgot his keys. I reminded him. He nodded. He left. I cleaned the table he used. Every day, it followed the same pattern, I reminded. He forgot. I did it myself. My phone buzzed on the counter. A message from the school. I read it while my hands were wet. I replied quickly, wiped my fingers on my shirt, and kept moving. I did not want to argue in the morning. I wanted peace, so I kept moving. I kept fixing things before they became problems. I thought that was love. Sometimes, I believed it would change. Maybe it would get better. Maybe they would notice. Maybe I just needed to try less. I tried to speak less. I tried to wait. My son called my name from the hallway while I was packing his lunch. I answered. 1 second. He waited. No one else came. I stopped what I was doing and went to him. The house stayed quiet. Nothing changed. At night, things felt heavier. We went into the bedroom. Dirty clothes lay in the corner. Socks missed the basket by 2 steps. A half-finished coffee cup sat on the table. I looked at it. I waited. David sat on the bed. He was tired. I could see it. I was tired, too. I asked softly, "Can you put that away?" He sighed. He looked at me. "Why do you talk so much?" he said. His voice was sharp. The TV was still on. Someone was laughing on the screen. But the room felt cold. I stopped talking. I picked up the cup. I washed it. My chest felt tight. I did not say why. Later that evening, the house grew quiet. The lights were low. I sat in the living room. I folded clothes alone. My son's shirt, David's shirt, my shirt. I lined them up neatly. I did not speak. My hands moved on their own. For a moment, I stopped. My fingers shook. Just a little. I took a deep breath. I kept folding. I did not tell myself anything this time. I just kept going. The next morning felt strange. I stood in the kitchen again. The milk in the fridge was expired. The pot from last night still sat on the stove. I reached for something. I forgot what it was. I stood there, confused. The room spun slightly. I held the counter. I breathed slowly. I waited for it to pass. It usually did. Then, one morning, I didn't get up. I got sick that week. It was not sudden, but it was heavy. The doctor looked at me and said something I had never heard before. You must stop. This was not the first time I was sick. Before, I still got up. I still cleaned. I still cooked. I still helped. Even with a fever, I moved around the house. I told myself it was fine. I always did, but this time was different. My body did not listen anymore. I stayed in the bedroom. The door was closed. The house felt far away. And this time, it was not only my body that stopped. My voice stopped too. David stood outside the door. He asked, like he always did, "Where is my blue shirt?" I did not open the door. I answered quietly, "I don't know. I am resting." The house went still. I could hear the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. David waited. He stood there, like he always did, waiting for more. But nothing came. A moment later, he asked again, "What is our son having for lunch?" My voice did not change. "I don't know." This time, the silence stayed longer. I heard our son calling from the next room. I heard the wind coming through a window that was not fully closed. David swallowed. No one answered for him. I did not explain. I did not remind. I did not tell anyone what to do. Before, I knew everything. I knew where things were. I knew what came next. Now, I knew nothing. The silence was not empty. It pressed down on the house, and for the first time, it pressed down on him. For the first time in our marriage, the familiar voice was gone. What happens when the voice disappears? That day, David had to do everything. I was still in bed. The door stayed closed. Our son needed food. I needed medicine. The kitchen stayed busy all day. Dishes piled up in the sink. Food went cold in the pot. The wet towel stayed on the floor, just like yesterday. David moved fast. Too fast. He boiled water and forgot it. The water spilled over. He turned off the stove. He wiped the counter with shaking hands. He breathed hard. He did one thing wrong, then another. He stopped. He bent down. He fixed it again from the start. No one asked him to. No one helped. Later, he walked past the bathroom. He stopped in front of the mirror. I didn't see him clearly, but I heard his breath change. Slow, heavy. He stood there for a long time. His face looked tired, tight, angry. His eyes were red. He stared at himself. And for the first time, he saw a face he knew. It was the face he had seen on me for years. Every morning, every night. He did not say anything. He just stood there. In the kitchen, our son looked up at him. "Dad, are you tired?" he asked. David answered honestly, "Yes, very tired." Our son stayed quiet for a second. Then he asked, "Mom did this every day, right?" He paused again. "Even when you were sick?" His voice was small. "She never said she was tired." The words were not loud, but they hit hard. That was when the truth landed. I did all of this without being asked. No one told me to do it. No one reminded me to remember. I carried everything on my own, in silence. David stood in the middle of the kitchen. His hands were wet with soap. He did not finish the dishes, but he did not stop. He kept washing, slowly, one plate at a time. He did not say my name. He did not explain. He just kept going. That night felt strange. The house stayed quiet. I lay in bed and listened. I did not hear excuses. I did not hear him say he was busy. I did not hear him say he was tired. I only heard small sounds from the kitchen. A plate touching the sink, water running, then stopping, a spoon slipping from his hand and hitting the floor. I held my breath without knowing why. David stood there for a long time. He looked at the mess he did not see before. The dishes were still there. The towel was still on the floor. Nothing moved on its own. He picked up the towel, then paused, like he did not know where it belonged. He did not call my name. He did not knock on the door. For the first time, he did not try to explain himself. That evening, he cleaned the kitchen. No one asked him. No one watched him. He moved slowly. He dropped a spoon and picked it up again. He wiped the counter twice. He opened a drawer, closed it, then opened it again. He stopped once, with his hands on the sink. His shoulders stayed still, his head lowered, just for a moment. The room felt heavy. I could almost feel it from my bed. I did not go out. I did not help. I stayed where I was. My body felt weak, but my mind stayed awake. I thought about every night before, every time I stepped in, every time I took over, every time I erased his chance to notice. I thought about how quiet this was. When the kitchen finally went silent, it was not relief. It was the sound of something settling into place. It was regret, sitting in the dark. The next morning felt different. I stayed in bed. I listened again. I heard the cabinet open. I heard the fridge. I heard our son moving around. I did not get up. I waited. David was packing his bag. Our son dropped his socks on the floor and turned away. David looked at him and said, "You do it." His voice was calm, not angry, not loud. The socks stayed on the floor for a second. Then our son picked them up. No one looked at my door. No one waited for me to step in. Later, David came into the room. I was sitting up, quiet. I did not speak first. He stood near the door. He did not rush. He did not smile. He did not say sorry. He just stood there, breathing slow. Then he spoke, very softly. I didn't know it was this tiring. He paused. "You did this every day." Another pause. "You're really good at it." His eyes stayed low. His hands stayed still. Those words were not an apology. I knew that. But they were something else. They were the truth, said out loud. For the first time, he did not defend himself. He did not explain. He just admitted what he saw. I looked at him. I did not say much. I only nodded. My throat felt tight. Not from pain, from being seen. A few weeks passed. The house felt the same, but it moved differently. I noticed it in small ways. I noticed it without trying. I stayed quiet more often. I watched. One morning, I was not in the kitchen. I was still in the bedroom. The house was noisy. Cabinets opened. Feet ran across the floor. Our son looked for his things. He stood there, holding his bag, unsure. Before, he would have called my name. He did not. David looked at him and said, very naturally, "You do it." There was no anger, no smile, just habit. Our son frowned. He dropped his shirt on the chair and turned away. David stopped him. "No, you do it." His voice was firm this time. David bent down and picked up the shirt from the floor. He did not clean it for him. He handed it back. "Put it back." Our son sighed, but he took it. He walked to the room and put it away. The moment passed. No one looked toward my door. No one waited for me to speak. David was not being strict. I could see that. He was teaching something. He did not want our son to grow up thinking someone else would always step in. Someone else would always remember. Someone else would always clean up. In that moment, I understood. This change was not only for me. It was moving forward. It was being passed on. The words, "You do it," were not said to prove anything. They were not loud. They were just part of life now. I smiled to myself, quietly. Not big, but real. Not every nagging wife wants control. Some just want partnership. I understand that now. When one person carries everything, talking becomes a habit. Reminding becomes survival. It is not about power. It is about balance. A home does not work when only one mind remembers. Love is not silence. Love is sharing the weight, even on tired days. When both people step in, words become softer, and life feels lighter. When you hear the word nagging, it is easy to think about control. But in many homes, it means something else. It means one person is carrying responsibility alone, remembering plans, watching time, thinking ahead. This is not loud work, but it is heavy work. In modern families, both people often work all day. Both feel tired, but the mental load is not always shared. When one person must remind again and again, words become the tool. Partnership does not begin when you help after being asked. It begins when you notice and act on your own. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes silence is absence. When both of you are tired, sharing matters more than staying quiet. A family works better when responsibility is shared before anyone has to speak. Have you ever been called nagging? I used to hear that word every day. Now I see it differently. So I want to ask you, is nagging a sign of a bad wife or an irresponsible husband? Comment 1 if this story feels close to your life, or write wife or husband to share your view. If this story stayed with you, follow for the next one.